Welcome to Setting the Stage. I'm Brooke Savage. Creative City Project has a new show coming to Dr. Phillips Center. It's called Wavelength. Colney Smith is the founder of Creative City Project, and he's here to tell us all about it. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, so great to be here. Thank you.
So first off, I always like to start off with, where are you from, and how did you get into the arts industry?
Yeah, so I'm a native of Orlando, from right here in Central Florida, and I have been an artist for most of my life. Grew up, as a little kid doing theater and music and singing in the church choir, as the story often goes. And then in high school started playing rock and roll with friends, and after high school traveled around in a 15-passenger van playing dirty, dingy dive bars around the eastern part of the United States, but ultimately moved into producing and creating experiences that we think are great opportunities for people to engage with the arts here in Central Florida.
And tell us, what exactly do you do? Because I don't think many people realize you are behind all these immersive experiences we see in Orlando.
Well, I work alongside of an amazing team, first of all, and we have a great time producing unique arts experiences that audiences can't have anywhere else in the world is kind of what we focus on. And we really look at disciplines like across the board, whether it's dance or music or visual art or any other type of art form, and how we can bring those into interesting spaces, create interesting experiences, and really engage people with artistic experiences no matter whether or not they think they're an artistic person.
Mm-hmm. And how did Creative City Project get started? Didn't it start with one small event?
Yeah, so in 2012, I just looked around and said, I have all of these incredibly, amazingly talented friends, musicians, dancers, actors, and thought, we have a great time doing what we do inside of our spaces, whether that's a gallery or a theater or a performing arts venue. But how great would it be if we could get outside of these venues and create experiences to connect with people in the public space? And so in 2012, I called a bunch of my friends who were those musicians and dancers and said, hey, play your guitar on the street corner or dance in that vacant lot. And it really was just us going out without any sound or lights or money or permits or permission. We just started creating, and that was the beginning of what has now turned into Creative City Project. Here we are 12 years later. We get to produce an incredible public art festival called Immersive that's coming back in February of 2025 that platforms more than 1,000 artists across 10 city blocks of downtown Orlando, with acrobats hanging from cranes and orchestras with hip-hop musicians and giant scaffolding structures with drum lines. And so we really like to create those interesting artistic experiences for people.
So how did you guys go from being a small group to now you're working with the city, right,
Yeah,
to create these experiences?
Yeah, so we work with a lot of partners. And how did we go from that to this? It honestly is one day at a time. And I think, when we started programming in downtown Orlando in 2012, and it wasn't behind an organization, there wasn't much structure around it. It was just a group of friends who believed that artists had the ability to contribute in a positive way to our community. And then Thomas Chapman, who was the director of the Downtown Development Board at the time, called me up. I didn't know him. We had never met. I wasn't really connected to other arts organizations, wasn't really connected to the arts community as a whole, to be honest. And he said, hey, what are you doing? Because we want to help. We want to help you do what you're doing. And so now we have partnerships with the Downtown Development Board. We are in a year-long process alongside of United Arts of Central Florida and the Downtown Arts District to create more than 800 arts experiences across downtown Orlando. Our part of that is creating some public art activations every 2 months. Our next one of those will be coming live on Thursday, August 15th, which it has kind of picked up in the news. It's these giant inflatable neon pigeons that'll be on rooftops. I'm sure you've seen some news about that. That's one of 800 experiences that we're programming alongside of United Arts and the Downtown Arts District. And then we get to partner with organizations and artists for events like what's coming up on Saturday, August 17th, Wavelength at Dr. Phillips Center.
And what can people expect from your show, Wavelength?
So Wavelength is one of our most ambitious projects that we've done inside of a theater. It is 50 live musicians 20 incredible world-class singers that will be on the balconies on the sides of Steinmetz Hall, so kind of creating that music coming out into the space so that we're filling the space with this beautiful music from these singers. There's a live band, there's an orchestral ensemble, there's a brass ensemble that will also be on those levels, and we have more than 200 lights, lasers, and projectors that will be projecting content into the theater. And so people talk about immersive experiences. We're bringing that music out into the theater space, not just sitting at a distance and looking at it on stage. And those lights will be on all of those balconies, kind of creating an immersive light experience that wraps around the audience. Those lasers shooting out into the space and those projectors creating beams of light out into the space. So it'll really be a very unique music and artistic experience for people.
Wow, and how does it compare to your past shows? Because last year you guys had a carnival show that was inside the Cheyenne Saloon. You had a much smaller stage, and it told a story. So what story are you telling with Wavelength?
Yeah, so in 2022, we partnered with the Orlando Philharmonic to create a show called The Seasons that was based around Vivaldi's The Four Seasons. And that was really kind of our first foray into these extensive theatrical experiences inside a theater. And then in 2023, we partnered with Orlando Philharmonic Orchestra again and created the Carnival, which you just mentioned, which is circus meets orchestra. So we had live circus performers. It was inside the Cheyenne Saloon, which is a gorgeous venue in downtown Orlando. We wrote an original script for that. There was a dance troupe that was part of that. And so now as we move into Wavelength, it really is an exploration of the intersection of light and sound. And so all of that music that's been created by these three music directors who are so exceptionally talented is then also being kind of choreographed with light all throughout the space and lasers and projections. So it's this beautiful visualization of music that's simultaneously intense and beautiful in and of itself. And it's all kinds of genres. It's some pop music, it's some jazz music, it's some classical music, it's some original compositions, it's new arrangements on old classics. And so we think that we've put together a show that'll be very exciting for audiences.
Wow, that does sound really cool. Tell us about the process. Like, when did you guys start working on Wavelength?
We started working on Wavelength at the end of 2023. It's a long process, and so when it comes to life in August, it'll be 9 or 10 months that we've really been working on the show, from concept to gathering the team. We have a director, Aradana Tawari, who's just incredible at bringing meaning to every element throughout the show. We have 3 amazing music directors, really talented musician named Chris Keogh, who has written original arrangements for that 20-person choir. Greg Perkins is leading our live band, and Julian Bond, who's a local composer and director, is leading our orchestral ensemble. We started working with the 4 of them in the early part of this year, brainstorming through what this show is going to be, what everybody's role is going to be, how we're dividing those responsibilities. As you can imagine, there are thousands of to-dos on the to-do list of bringing a show of this scale to life. So we've been working on it for 9 or 10 months.
And what is your favorite part of the show?
Are
you allowed to say?
Yeah, no, I would love to talk about my favorite part. I think one of my favorite parts of the show is actually something that I've gotten to experience in Steinmetz Hall before. In 2023, we got to partner with the Orlando Economic Partnership to bring some programming to their annual dinner. And we gathered these 20 singers and we put them on those balconies of Steinmetz Hall where the Orlando Economic Partnership event was. And they sang this original arrangement of Pure Imagination from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And Chris Keogh, one of our music directors, wrote that arrangement. And the moment we got into that space to rehearse that piece, and I heard it just resonating into the building, I thought, this is going to be an amazing event for Orlando Economic Partnership, but I definitely want to take this and build an entire show around it. And so we have these incredible a cappella singers who, honestly, like, if for guests who get to come to this show and experience it, they will experience musical moments that literally they've never experienced in their life. Hearing these 20 singers inside of this venue is going to be so thrilling for everybody who gets to experience it. So I think those vocal moments are probably some of my favorite.
Well, I love a cappella, not
Yeah.
gonna lie. So
You're going to love this show then.
So you mentioned a little bit about programming in the theater, but this is Creative City Project's first official show at Dr. Phillips.
Yeah, we've had an incredible opportunity to work inside of Dr. Phillips and with Dr. Phillips Center for the Performing Arts many times, but this is the first time we at Creative City Project have gotten to produce our own show inside of Dr. Phillips Center. And so, Steinmetz Hall, for guests who haven't been inside of it, just walking into that space is breathtaking. And even for me, who I've spent probably 50 or 60 days of my life inside of that venue, still every time I walk into it, I'm in awe of its beauty. And even the acoustics of the hall are really made for the type of show that we're doing it in. This show will have audience members all the way around. The show will be in the round, and the singers and musicians will be surrounding the audience. And so it's really fun to get to go into that space and produce something from Creative City Project for the first time.
That is so cool. We talked a little bit about being immersive. In a way, I feel like you guys got the ball rolling in Orlando. It feels like a new trendy word in theater. What
Sure.
is immersive to you?
Yeah, I think it means a lot for different producers. For us, it means moving away from those are the performers over there, and here I am in my seat. And so we really are thinking about how can we surround the audience with that light. There'll be we have these 10-foot tall light pillars. Some of those will be hanging over people's heads as they light up to the music. We have a bunch on the balconies of Steinmetz Hall. Those will be lighting up, bringing that light out into the space and creating this really unique sensory visual experience. And then bringing those singers, not just on the stage, but out into the theater. And as an audience member, you might be very close to one of those singers, hearing the music in a different way, hearing those singers sing out into the space, not just from a distance, but right next to you.
Right. And you mentioned programming, and you're not just working on Wavelength. You also have 2 holiday events for Halloween and the holidays in December, right?
We are quite busy these days, yes. Our team is in our warehouse right now preparing for Happy Frights and Haunting Nights, as well as Dazzling Nights. All 3 of those events take place at Lou Gardens, incredible partners here in the city of Orlando. Happy Frights and Haunting Nights are our 2 Halloween shows. The first is a family-friendly trick-or-treating adventure through 14 immersive worlds. And then the second one is Haunting Nights, which is after the sun goes down. It's a little bit more thrilling and frightening Halloween experience. And we're very excited about these 2 shows. They'll be the largest shows that we've ever produced before. So we've expanded our footprint inside of Lou Gardens. There'll be 14 immersive worlds. The first one that guests will come to is called Bayou of Beasts. For guests who come to Happy Frights in the first part of the night, there they'll experience some fairies and some dancing trolls and some alligators and frogs. And then when the sun goes down at Haunting Nights, they might encounter Bigfoot or this kind of boar man that has lost his way in the swamp of right there alongside of Lake Rowena. We have a hip-hop dancing alien troupe that's crash landed and will be performing hip-hop dance shows all night long. We have a fun area called Brew Bash with these 8-foot tall cauldrons with smoke and bubbles coming out of them with a 14-foot tall puppet. So we're really excited about Happy Frights and Haunting Nights this year as well.
What about Dazzling Nights?
Dazzling Nights is our holiday event that we produce at Lou Gardens as well. It too is our biggest Dazzling Nights event that we've ever produced, which we're very excited about. We've increased the number of activations that guests will be able to see and walk through. We've purchased hundreds of thousands of brand new lights that will be hanging from the tree branches overhead, even in between all of those main activations. So we're really excited about Dazzling Nights this year as well.
Well, it seems like you guys are starting to work, you talked a little bit about this. Are you guys on a rotation where it's one show each year, then the 2 events during the holidays, and maybe some other immersive things here or there. What's going on there?
Yeah, so we have really loved, producing these theatrical events, and that's something that I think we want to continue to do. Happy Frights, Haunting Nights, and Dazzling Nights are things that we continue to do and want to continue to do here in Central Florida and plan on. But I think another thing that is kind of where we got started and one of our signature experiences is Immerse, which we have on the calendar for returning in February of 2025. So we were just on the beginning stages of collaborating with artists to bring that event to life across downtown Orlando.
Wow, and then maybe another show next year?
And then maybe a show next year. We're kind of getting through Immerse, and obviously that event hosting 75,000 people, platforming more than 1,000 artists. We really want to focus in on that and give a lot of our time and attention and energy to it. So I think now that Immerse is coming back and our partnership with Orange County and the city of Orlando to do that, we want to make sure that we're really focusing in on it. So we'll see if we do another theatrical show in 2025, but we're really excited about the return of Immerse.
Wow, it's kind of incredible to hear how you guys started off as a small group and now you're a well-oiled machine with all these different events.
Yeah, we have an incredible team of people who help us bring all of this stuff to life, and we certainly couldn't do it without them. And we've definitely learned a lot along the way. I think for people who are creators, for people who are thinking like, I want to produce something someday, I think all of us know that it is a heavy lift. It's a big undertaking, and we've learned a lot along the way. And I think we've learned a lot, as much through our failures as we've learned through our successes. And I think that we are embracing the creative process and coming out of each of the events that we produce, having learned lessons for next time we get to produce another great event.
I love it. Is there anything else you want to bring up about Wavelength?
I think anybody who comes to Wavelength is really going to have a very unique experience, both musically and visually, something that they've never encountered before, which really is the hallmark of what we want to do through Creative City Project. We believe that Central Florida and its creative community is world-class and totally unique. And so we love partnering with these incredible musicians and visual designers to bring something to life right here in our community that really platforms the immense creativity and creative talent that calls Central Florida home.
I love how you guys are just bringing, I feel like you're making Orlando proud, not gonna lie. You give us something to brag about.
I sure hope so. I definitely hope so. And we want not only to make Orlando proud and our residents proud, we want to continue to help expand the global perception of our city as a world-class destination for art and culture. And so by producing these events and platforming artists and collaborating with other arts organizations, that is ultimately our end goal. I, as an individual, have, again, so many of those creative friends, and I know the talent that calls Orlando home, and I want the rest of the world to know that and embrace it as well.
Exactly. There's always so many shows going on here, or crazy events, you know?
There definitely are.
Well, I have already posted about Wavelength on clickorlando.com/setting the stage. Again, it's coming to the Dr. Phillips Center on August 17th. Cole, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.